loving all your amazing watches and diamonds and everything else that you do.
Diamond.
That is what you always.
So I can't wait to go back to work again. When I'm working a lot, so they say when you go back on June 1st,
Well, New York has been hit harder than anywhere. Here in California.
Education. In 1876, Rhodes left his farm field in the case of his business partner, Rhodes, and sailed for England to study at university. He was admitted to Oriel College, Oxford, but stayed for only one term in 1874. He returned to South Africa and did not return for his second term at Oxford until 1876. He was greatly influenced by the John Ruskin's inaugural lecture at Oxford, which reinforced his own attachment to the cause of British imperialism. Wow. Among his Oxford associates were James Rochefort Maguire, later a Fellow of All Souls College and the Director of the British South Africa Company, and Charles Metcalfe. Due to his university career, Rhodes admired the Oxford system. Eventually, he was inspired to develop his scholarship scheme. Wherever you turn your eye, except in science, an Oxford man is at the top of the tree. Ha, except science. While attending Oriel College, Rhodes became a Freemason in the Apollo University Lodge. Although initially he did not approve of the organization, he continued to be a South African Freemason until his death in 1902. The shortcomings of the Freemasons, in his opinion, later caused him to envisage his own secret society with the goal of bringing the entire world under British rule. Okay. Demands and the establishment of the De beers of drinking, right? During his years at Oxford, Rhodes continued to prosper in Kimberley. Before his departure for Oxford, he and C.D. Rhodes had moved from the Kimberley mine to invest in the more costly claims of what was known as Old De Beers, Bruitschiet. It was named after Johannes Nicolaas de Beer and his brother Diederik Arnoldus, who occupied the farm. After purchasing the land in 1839 from David Dancer, a Korana chief in the area, David Stephanus Fourier, forbearer for the crowding for Grosvenor had allowed the De Beers and various other Afrikaner families to cultivate the land. The regions extended from the Moder River via the Bet River up to the Vaal River. Okay. In 1874 and 1875, the diamond fields were in the grip of the Depression, but Rhodes and Rhodes were among those who stayed to consolidate their interest. They believed that the diamonds would be numerous in the hard blue ground that had been exposed after the softer yellow layer near the surface had been worked out. During this time, the technical problem of clearing out the water that was flooding the mines became serious. Yes, this is Rhodes and Rhodes obtained the contract for pumping water out of the three main mines. Sure. After Rhodes returned from his first term at Oxford, he lived with Robert Dundas Graham, who later became a mining partner with Rhodes and Rhodes. On 13th March 1888, Rhodes and Rhodes launched De Beers Consolidated Mines. After the amalgamation of a number of individual claims, with £200,000 of capital, the company of which Rhodes was secretly owned the largest interest in the mine, 200,000 mine in the 1880s, equal £22.5 million in 2020, equal 28 million in 2020. 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 28 million in $1.5 million US. Rhodes was named the claimant of the De Beers as the company's funding in 1888. De Beers was established with funding from N.M. Rothschild and Sons in 1887. Sure, of course, Rothschild. In 1880s, Rhodes prepared to enter public life at the Cape, with the area incorporation of the Griqualand West into the Cape Colony under the Molteno Ministry in 1877. The area had obtained 6 seats in the Cape House of the Assembly. Rhodes chose a rural and predominantly Boer constituency of Berkeley West, which would remain loyal to the Rhodes until his death. Wow. When Rhodes became a member of Cape Parliament, the chief goal of the Assembly was to help decide the future of Basutoland. The ministry of Sir Gordon Sprigg was trying to restore order after the 1880s rebellion known as the Gun War. The Sprigg ministry had precipitated the revolt by applying its policy of disarming all native Africans to those of the Basotho nation who resisted. Sure. In 1890, Rhodes became a prime minister of the Cape Colony. He introduced various acts of parliament to push black people from their lands and make way for industrial development. No way! Rhodes' view was that black people needed to be driven off their land to stimulate them to labor, and to change their habits. It must be brought home to them. Rhodes said that in the future 9/10 of them will have to spend their lives in a manual labor, and the sooner that is brought home to them, the better. No way, they are not his livestock. Come on. In 1892, Rhodes' Franchise and Ballot Act raised property requirements from the relatively low £25 to a significantly higher £75, which had a disproportionate effect on the previously growing number of the enfranchised black people in the Cape under the Cape Qualified Franchise that had been in force since 1853.
That is a bargain. I don't want that for me, but that is a bargain. $4,500 with the diamond bezel.
With the aftermarket diamond bezel, correct. Alright, here is the 41mm, the newest style HS.
By limiting the amount of the land which black Africans were legally allowed to hold in the Glen-Gray Act of 1894, Rhodes further disenfranchised the black population. To quote Richard Dowden, most would now find it almost impossible to get back on the list because of the legal limit on the amount of the land they could hold. In addition, Rhodes was an early architect of the Native Lands Act 1913, which would limit the area of the country where black Africans were allowed to settle to less than 10%. At that time, Rhodes would argue that the native is to be treated as a child and denied the franchise. We must adopt a system of nepotism such as works in India in our relation with the barbarism of South Africa. Rhodes also introduced the educational reform to the area. His policies were instrumental in the development of British imperial policies in South Africa, such as a hat tax. Rhodes did not, however, have direct political power over the independent Boer Republic of the Transvaal. He often disagreed with the Transvaal government's policies, which he considered unsupportive of mine owners' interests. He's businessman, right? In 1895, believing he could use his influence to overthrow the Boer government, Rhodes supported the Jameson raid and an unsuccessful attempt to create an uprising in the Transvaal that had tacit approval of the Secretary of State for the Colonies, Joseph Chamberlain. The raid was a catastrophic failure. It forced Cecil Rhodes to resign as a Prime Minister of the Cape Colony, sent his oldest brother, Colonel Frank Rhodes, to jail in Transvaal, convicted of the high treason and nearly sentenced to death, and contributed to the outbreak of the Second Boer War. Sure. In 1899, Rhodes was sued by a man named Barrow for falsely representing the purpose of the raid and thereby convicting him to participate in the raid. Barrow was severely wounded and had to have his leg amputated. His suit for £3,000 in demands was successful. Wow.